Welcome back to the build series. As Dax Shepard would say, so if you didn't see the first video, let me catch you up on it. So what we got here is a 1990 Honda Pilot. What we're doing is we're building a full build on this thing, 800cc, skidoo powered, Rotax powered, 150 horsepower snowmobile engine swap on this thing, as well as some suspension upgrades, tires, seat, pretty much everything. So this is where we left off. So like I said, we're building this thing for Dax Shepard. So he randomly commented on one of my Instagram videos of my 670 skidoo powered Honda Pilot, drifting and doing wheelies and all sorts of stuff. And he said, build me one. So that's what we're doing. So the goal today is we're going to strip this thing completely down to the frame. So get all this rear suspension off, front suspension, wiring harness, all of our steering stuff. We need to get this transmission out of here, as well as cut off these old motor mounts there, because they decided to weld these things like crazy. So we need to salvage those original tabs on this thing. I'll get rid of this old radiator, if we're not going to use that. We're going to cut off a bunch of these tabs that were just, well, this was relocated and welded. These are some factory ones that we're not going to use, but will be in the way. So we'll take that stuff off. So the goal is to get this thing down to a complete bare chassis. This is the seat that we're planning on putting in it too, which that's going to be a later project, getting this thing all mounted up in there. In the last video, so this thing had a tube that was missing right there. I said that I was going to weld a new one in there, but on one of the Facebook groups, a guy was selling a upper roll cage, basically this whole piece there, which is exactly what I need, so it'll be OEM. And he was out in California originally. I was going to try to ship it out here, which the shipping was outrageous. Turns out that there's another guy from Nebraska, so I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was out in western Nebraska. That was going to be in Glamis over like before Thanksgiving. And anyway, they were going to meet up, and he's going to deliver this cage back to Nebraska for me. So that will be an easy fix instead of having to weld in a new tube. All right, let's get started. I think we'll start with pulling some tires and suspension off of this thing first. Let's yank these wheels off. So these are the original tires and wheels for this model. So that left side over there is actually in really good shape. Both of them have great tread. This one's got some weather cracking to it, which the OEM tires are pretty unique to this model. But we're going to put some new ones on there, a little bit taller too. We're going to go with some 25-inch tires instead of 24s. So I've been really trying to figure out what I want to do for tires on this Pilot. So these are obviously the original tires. This tread pattern, I had to put a set of tires on an Arctic Cat and purposely ordered these ones, which these are a 25-inch tire. I can get them in a 10-inch rim, but they kind of remind me of maybe a modern interpretation of these original tires. So I'm kind of debating going this direction, but we'll see. So yeah, these are 25-inch, so be just a hair taller, which it's not too drastic on here at all. Well, we'll see. Time will tell what I go with here. So next thing we're going to do is pull all this suspension off. So basically all this stuff bolts in with our control arms. We've got a ball joint up here on this whole strut mechanism. Pull this hub off as well, and then get these CV shafts yanked out of there. So the goal is to get all this stuff off, get this CV shaft nice in line, give it a big old yank, and hopefully they'll pop out. All right, so those came off pretty easy. This one bolt that was running through there was a little stuck on there. It's gonna need a little grease going back on, so to tap that out. So we're gonna take this castle nut off next, get this hub off, and then drive this ball joint off there too, and undo the shock bolt there, and up there we'll get the shock off and out of the way. And then that part, and then we'll yank on the CV shaft and see if it comes out. All right, that wasn't too bad. The only thing that kind of fought me a little bit, the ball joint there, took a few taps on there, which I was a little worried about that being kind of seized into there. They're just like a tapered fit that goes in there. So that's free now. The hub here itself is kind of stuck into the knuckle, so we'll try to drive this out from this side, I think. Maybe our clamps, I would like to separate those two. Okay, so I think I'll just yank this off quick, just 2 bolts there, and then see if I can get this pressed out of there. And then what we're gonna do is put this hub back on here, then use this kind of as a slide hammer to yank this CV shaft out. Well, we've got this hub moving. Unfortunately, what I had to do is configure this in the vise. We got a socket, wrong one. Socket running down there, pushing on that hub and driving it out. Kind of hard to do in a press with something like this. Pretty odd configuration. Well, just about got this out, so pop that back out quick and we'll tackle this CV shaft. Okay, we got our top arm off, got the hub off, so what we're gonna do here, slip this back on here, put our nut loosely on, and then this will act as a slide hammer as well as give you something to hold on to. Get this nice and straight in line and give it a big old yank, and we'll see if this CV shaft comes out. It's out. I better put some jack stands on this thing. I'm just gonna knock it off of that. Okay, we've got this stabilized a little better. We'll give this thing a yank and see what it does. Oh, one shot. That is amazing. Sometimes CV shafts, they either come out in one good yank or you fight them for like 4 hours. Sweet. Okay, well, let's do this to the other side and get everything ripped off. Alright, this came apart pretty easy. Pretty much the exact same as before. Same deal here. That hub's pushed in there, stuck in there still, so we'll drive that out quick and then see if this CV shaft will come out the same. Maybe we'll get lucky and just one more big yank on this one too. That would be awesome. Alright, are we going to go 2 for 2 here? Oh, perfect. That is the trick. Sweet. Okay. We've got this side disassembled too. So next step is we're probably going to work on getting this transmission out of here and cutting these horrible engine mounts out of the way. I'm going to yank this radiator out quick. So basically, this is just sitting on this mount here, and then these 2 tabs are just kind of bolted in there. So if I unbolt that, all this should come off. So we're not going to reuse any of that. So get that off and out of the way, and then keep plugging away. This radiator's loose here, the only holding it on. We've got a couple wires. This is most likely the hot light, and then this is the fan on switch, if I remember right. Could be wrong. And we got a ground switch there, or ground wire. And other than that, it's free. It'll be out of here. So in order to remove this transmission, we basically got one big bolt coming through there, and then one mount up there. Which also, our engine mount would normally bolt into this. We'll have to cut these welds out of there and stuff. And then on the back side, we've got the transmission linkage here, which we should be able to just undo that bolt, unhook the cables out of the shifter. We've got 2 wires there for our neutral and the reverse. We've got our brake caliper on the back here too, which, and you know what, I might just unbolt it there. Originally I was thinking about undoing this, but ideally we're going to reuse the rear brakes. Front brakes are going to be disc brakes. Ideally it'd be nice to keep this together and hopefully not have to re-bleed these rears. So I think we'll just undo these 2 big bolts there, and that'll slip off the disc. And then that transmission should be free. So I guess first step is cutting some welds. All right, time to cut some welds out. All right, we've got our tabs cut there on each side, so we're gonna kind of keep continuing on with this thing. We'll pull this brake disc off here next. the brake caliper. Get our shifter cables undone and unbolt it, and I think we should have a free transmission here in just a couple seconds. So we've got our shift cables free here and the 2 wires unhooked. So the neutral light indicator just pushed on, but the other one, the reverse, was actually a little nut underneath there. You had to get at underneath the little rubber boot. But these guys, take this cable, find the hole like that, and slip each one of those out, and our cables are free. To remove the brake caliper, it's this screw right there and that one up there. These 2 there actually are the little floating pins for the caliper itself, and this is what bolts into the transmission case. And here's our brake caliper. We also needed to unhook the parking brake cable as well, which just went into there, and that fixture right there. So this is free with our brake line. Everything's free other than our 2 transmission bolts. So a big one right there, and then one down there. We'll zip those out quick, and this thing should definitely be free. Got a couple more things we need to remove. So there's actually a bolt on each side. One that goes through there, the other one goes through there. Pulled this one out, fine. On this side here, we've got this little shield, as well as this is like our brake, our parking brake switch. But we got to get to that nut right back there. So pull this shield off, get this little switch out of the way too, and then I think we should be able to sneak a socket inside there and get that nut off. Got everything loose there on the transmission. Should be free to come out. Oh shoot. This one tab is not completely cut through yet. Thought it was free, but not yet. Not much holding it on. Let's see if a couple whacks will. There we go. Now it's free. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, there we go. This one. Go that way with it. Alright, there's our transmission. Put these bolts back in there so I don't lose them. So I'll take this secondary clutch off later. I think my plan is to definitely clean this up and drain the oil out of this transmission and check it all out too. I believe everything's in good working shape there. Forward, reverse, neutral. Sweet. All right, let's tackle some electrical stuff. All right, now we got this transmission out of the way. I'm gonna work on basically pulling the whole wiring harness. So all these little clips like this, these will just bend out a little bit so you can slip the wires out. So we're gonna work on pulling all this wiring harness off, cut this electrical tape off of it. That runs all the way up to the front, and then we should be able to kind of unhook some things up here too, and get this whole harness off of here quick. And just like that, there's our whole wiring harness. Looks worse than what it really is. So on this thing, so there's a lot of these little like white connectors like this, and even like this one right here. Oh, let me go to the other side. But to remove these things, it's just like kind of a quarter turn or half turn. So like this one, a quarter turn, and it pops out. So underneath there, there's just kind of a square shape that fits in there. When you turn it 45 degrees, pops out. So those things come out pretty easy. Another little thing, little trick, is a lot of like these brake line fittings have some tabs like this, these little silver tabs. These pull out, and then it allows this fitting, it kind of wedges in there and holds it into all these little fixtures. So you got to pull these tabs out to get those brake lines out. So next we're going to pull this shifter out, basically just unbolt it down there, leave all the cables hooked up, unbolt the parking brake assembly as well, and the battery box. There's just 2 bolts that hold the battery box in as well. Those 2 10mm screws there. And then probably work on this front end. All right, we've got the park brake and the shifter and stuff out. Only thing hanging back here is the brake line. We're gonna leave all that hooked up. So my plan here is this steering column is gonna unbolt down there and up there. And if we unhook the tie rods, we can just take this whole thing out as an assembly, leave those rear brakes bled, and I don't really need to disassemble this steering wheel at all, as far as I believe. So we'll do that. And then actually first we're gonna rip off this front suspension. So on these, we're doing a long travel up front, so this is all gonna be new. We're using new shocks too. I think we're gonna be going with some Elka shocks front and rear. So we're gonna pull this wheel off, and I'm just gonna unbolt the A-arms on each side and then undo the tie rods down there. So these, put a wrench on the top side, nut on the bottom side, and then we'll leave all that front end stuff just kind of bolted up with the drum brakes and everything. And then on these, same deal. We got these little tabs here to pull to release the brake lines. And then on these, I'll probably, well, I guess I'll just undo the brake line down there at the drum brake there and leave everything else plumbed up to the master cylinder. All right, let's take it apart. All right, we've got that side removed there. We'll do the same on the other side, yank this wheel off, and then, yeah, like pull these clips out here, and then just unbolt 2 bolts there on the steering column, and then another 2 hidden down there. And then that whole steering column should come out with our rear caliper that's floating back there. Well, let's get back at it. And just like that, got a naked frame other than a few reflectors, a mirror. I guess it's got the tail light up there. That's about it. Some pads, but it's basically stripped down. So yeah, we got our front suspension. We left that stuff together, and then the whole steering column assembly with our brake lines. So left that rear line all plumbed and everything, and still bled. We'll have to redo the fronts when we do the front suspension, but other than that, basically, we just need to clean up some tabs, remove a couple brackets, and then this thing's getting sent out for powder coat. So I think that's going to be the next step, is getting this stuff powder coated. Hopefully, I'll have some other parts back in so we can get a powder coated frame, start bolting the engine, transmission, all that stuff back up, and start putting this thing back together. Okay, so follow along for the next part.